Red alert. All hands to battle station.
Red alert. Right, everybody got your seatbelts on? Or wait, we don't have seatbelts. We're on Star Trek.
There's no seatbelts in Star Trek.
My inertial dampener is holding fast, thank God. But if it doesn't, I've got my Audio Oomox travel cup in my hand with the lid on it, so we're all good. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, there's a link in the show notes.
And I'm not going to spill my Tron yet.
You wouldn't spill your Tron. There's no lid on it, but I know you. You spilling a drink? Please now. Please.
Yeah, that's alcohol abuse.
Give me a break. Hey, I'm Alex.
I'm Brian.
And you're back with Audio Oomox on a special Red Alert edition where we're talking about something we've been waiting for literally over 25 years. We're talking about What We Left Behind. Ira Steven Behr and his team's love letter to the fans and to the greatest creation, and I think at least in Star Trek Deep Space Nine.
I started to think about the title of this final episode, which is What You Leave Behind. And I started to think, what have we left behind?
We've wanted to make a Star Trek show that would satisfy a Star Trek audience, but different.
We had this big black captain in your face. America, come and look at me, and I'm running your show, and this is the face of it.
One of the things that attracted me about the Star Trek was that I would be human, completely human, and brown, too. See?
It was dark and dirty, and the characters didn't all get along.
Nothing was black and white. She was a terrorist.
The show spoke about nuances of war that people don't know.
It was something totally different in the world of Star Trek.
If people aren't bothered by it or don't like it, you're doing something wrong.
With all due respect, Deep Space Nine is not really Star Trek.
It's not true. We did wonderful, painful work. It was often very painful to do.
It pissed us off.
I did feel like Alice in Wonderland being dropped into this amazing world.
I never felt appreciated on the show.
I think there was a serious intent about the war, perhaps a more serious intent.
Oh, well, I didn't know that because it seemed very funny to me.
That anger is mine! You can't have it!
I don't think that ever happened.
Don't dismiss me. Talk to me.
Only the people involved know the facts.
This is Rashomon.
It's Rashomon.
We have no idea.
Everybody
I'm
has a
so
different
glad
point of
I
view.
asked this question.
Next.
We're in Vegas right now with a ton of people downstairs. They love this show. It just took them 20 years to get here.
It went where no one has gone before. It pursued the journey inside, not the journey out.
I wish I could go back and relive that just one more time.
It was like a family on the show, you know? It was like a family on the show.
That 7 years changed my life.
That's very emotional, you know?
Guess what? This is Deep Space Nine. Don't get too comfortable.
Brian and I have been kind of touting this on the show for weeks, and we got our tickets. Like, I know I was the first person in my town to buy a ticket in my theater. Were you? Probably, because you can pick out the seat. Did you pick your seat at the movies?
I did not. I picked my seat, but I was not able to secure in advance the seating at the theater.
Okay, well, so I know we did that, and we were very excited about it. We were so excited, we moved forward our plans to create a logo and create T-shirts just so we could be recognized there. And of course, we'll talk about how that went in just a second. But hey, folks, listen, this is a special Red Alert edition, which, if you're new to the show, just means it's not. We're not talking about an episode in particular, although technically we are talking about season 8, episode 1, and this one a little bit. The season 8 that was never made, and the episode 1 that is just in the minds of the writers, but we'll be doing that. But this is a special Red Alert edition, and we'll be back next time with another edition. We'll take up with the next episode, which is, oh golly, I had it on the tip of my tongue, but hey, you know what? It's the next one. If you subscribe on Apple Podcasts, it's the next one. And by the way, that's the way you don't miss anything, is to use Apple Podcasts. So again, just really quickly, if you're not familiar with the show, it's two dudes who love Star Trek. One of them who ate, drank, and slept Star Trek Deep Space Nine when it was on back in the 90s, and the other is a dude who was on deployment for the military, and he missed a lot of it, so he's catching up now, and we're talking about the show. Is that a fair way to put it, buddy?
That's it, exactly. Obviously had a couple of spoilers during this, but great documentary and great seeing the cast members that I've fallen in love with already, and
not just Kira.
just a season and a half, and not just Kira.
Hey, before we get into the show itself, so I'm gonna set the table a little bit here. So I get to Kansas City at the Berry Woods AMC. I get in there. And I'm early. I took my kid to gymnastics at 5. The show's at 7. I went over to Chipotle and treated myself to a burrito bowl, Modelo beer. I'm having a good time there. And I'm just finishing up. And I'm reading Andy Robinson's Garak novel, A Stitch in Time. It's great, by the way, and I'll do a full review on that eventually. And I'm just so in the mood for this Fathom event special deal. I take my time, a leisurely time. I don't just wolf down my food like I normally do. I take like a whole 45 minutes, drink my beer, read my book, and then it's like, okay, I could go. And it's still not even 6 o'clock. But I take my time. I think I fill up the tank. And then I drive over, and I'm sitting in the parking lot kind of texting a little bit and tweeting and texting with you. And you were running not as early as me, obviously, because you were working later and stuff.
Right.
And you get home and eat real quick and all that. But I go ahead and I go in eventually. And I'm still super early. So they have the place in AMC called MacGuffin's. It's like a bar in a lot of them. So I go in. There's nobody there. I decided I just have like a vodka and tonic just to kind of pass the time. And there's a baseball game on. And there's this bartender who has nothing else to do but stare at me while I'm drinking my drink. And I'm just like...
So he's no quark.
No quark, no. And he just, I tried to make a little convo with him. He gave me no quarter for conversation. So anyway,
So before you continue, we need to talk about our trip to the Hilton Las Vegas so shortly during the series or shortly after, they created that whole lobby area, and there are still remnants of it. If you go, it's now owned by Westgate. It's not a Hilton hotel anymore, but it's attached to the convention center, Vegas Convention Center.
But previously, when the Star Trek The Experience was there, they built this kind of futuristic lobbies, which you're talking about.
Correct.
So you've been there since.
But there are still remnants of that there. I've been there recently, and some of the architectural elements they've tried to disguise, but it still looks like quarks.
Doing it on the cheaps, huh? Have you gone to the restrooms out there? Do you remember the restrooms that you'd go to the urinals out there? You brought it up, so I'm going to mention that. So you would go to the urinals, not in Quark's Bar, but outside Star Trek The Experience. You go to the urinals in this space version thing, and you'd pee for a little bit. Sorry, folks, but that's what you do at a urinal. And like in 30 seconds, there's computer voice is analyzing your pee, and it's just. I did it enough times where I don't remember anymore what they said, but there was like 5 or 6 different loops of things they would say. Yeah, or they would make like a measurement of whatever. But anyway, so it's funny you should mention. So it's still, but so yeah, the Vegas Hilton still has remnants of the experience, is what you're saying.
Well, it's now a Westgate. Westgate bought it from Hilton, but that hotel still that area. But anyway, we'll cover that some other time.
We're going to do a special episode on the experience because you and I had some times there, my brother. Some times.
Yes, that's true. Whew. We breached a warp core.
Oh man. Anyway, okay. So back to so I'm thinking, okay, and I'm not seeing a lot of fans go by me when I'm sitting in MacGuffin's, but I'm thinking, okay, it's about 6:45. No, it was about 6. It was about 6:30, 6:35. Okay, now I can go. So I go to my theater 2. The door is shut. It says seating begins in like 20 minutes. I'm like, ugh. So I don't go in, and I go sit on a bench outside. The woman walks past with a guy. And she's dressed like in her full Picard outfit. She didn't have a bald cap, but she's like in TNG uniform, red command. I'm like, okay, here we go. All right. I see her, and they don't come back around the corner, so I assume they just went in the door and sat down. So I thought, oh, well, maybe I don't need to follow the rules. I'll just follow this Starfleet officer in. So I go in, and there's already like a dozen people seated. And I go in, and of course, I'd picked the seat that's right in the dead center of the theater because I was the first one. So I had the best seat in the house. And of course, there's all these people around me who clearly wanted that seat because they were sitting all around me. And I, of course, squeeze in. I go, oh, it's always, you think you're alone, and then you got some guy squeezing past you. So we're sitting there, and they do the trivia. There's trivia going on, right? Did they have trivia? Now, we'll get to you in a minute, but I don't know. You probably didn't. Okay. Yeah, he's nodding at me like no. Okay. Well, they had DS9 trivia slides ahead of time for the Fathom event thing. I just figure I'm amongst friends, and I'd had a couple of drinks, so I'm loosened up, right? And so they're like saying, who played Jaro Esso in this episode, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, Frank Langella. And everybody just looks at me like, okay. And then they had a question about duet, about Eamon Maritza and Harris Yulin. I'm like, Harris Yulin or whatever. And I mean, people. So I thought, am I like the obnoxious fan here just because I'm having fun?
Or you're like Bill Murray doing Jeopardy on Groundhog Day.
Exactly. That's pretty much how. Oh my God, that's what it was.
Finger Lakes.
The Finger Lakes. Great job. Yeah, I mean that's what it was. And so I kept it. And then finally, this gal I was sitting next to was actually the Starfleet person, and so she answers a few of them. So I thought, okay, we want to interview some folks for the show, and I don't see anybody who sees my T-shirt and is like, "Hey, it's Alex," and nobody said so on the Facebook page either. So I was like, "Well, what are the odds anyway?" So we're getting closer, and it's like 10 minutes on. I thought, well, I want to see if I can get an interview with somebody. And now, admittedly, in retrospect, maybe I should have waited till after to ask somebody. But I thought, well, people are talking. Let's, So I lean over and I start talking to her, and she just clams up. I mean, clams up like I'm a shy person and you have violated all rules of my being. Do not talk to me any further. And I felt terrible. Like I really felt like I had stepped in something there.
Right.
No harm done. I just backed off. The guy she was with he just kind of, shook me off too. And I thought, I'm not going to ask anybody anything. But then some really great people started filing in, lots of them. So we filled up. We got like 50, 55 people, I think. And by the time the show started, and everything went great, and away we went. So what about you? When you showed up at the Deer Tick or wherever you were?
So, as you mentioned, I went from the office, got home, woofed down some food really quickly, and got to the theater, grabbed a popcorn and a soda. We don't have a MacGuffins at our theater.
Is yours an AMC even? Was that an AMC?
It was a Century.
Oh, I don't even know what that is.
I'm not sure if it's part of Regal Cinemas or if it's. I'm not sure.
But there's no bar there. Yeah.
There was no bar. So I got some snacks. When I was getting my ticket, I noticed a stack of the What We Left Behind poster just gathering dust.
Nobody knew what to do. Same thing with us, by the way. They didn't know what to do with those, the staff. Go ahead.
So when he gave me my ticket, I had the scanner thing on my phone. He handed me the ticket. He asked if I wanted the poster, and I said, well, of course, yes.
Well, can I interrupt you for a moment? I'm sorry.
Sure.
So, yeah, I forgot to mention this. It was like 2 minutes before the show began, and a guy walks in and goes, we're supposed to give you all these posters. Who wants one?
Yeah. So then I go into the theater, and there's just myself and one other person at the time I go in.
Oh, no, you're kidding. And you were there late, weren't you?
So it's blank screen. It was about 15 minutes to when the show was supposed to start.
And there's no trivia?
It was just me and blank screen.
Oh, my God.
Me and this one older gentleman that's sitting on the row closest to the exit, because it looked like he would have had some challenges with stairs.
Oh, okay.
So I find my way to a seat. I did get the best possible seat I could find in the middle there, and then a couple of others trickled in. So there was one older couple, one kind of middle-aged couple, and then a couple of younger guys, and that was it. And we're sitting there. And then it gets to 7:00, nothing. They don't start the movie.
Oh.
And then I was like, nothing's happening. And then I finally start seeing the satellite feed on screen through Dish. It was through Dish Network. That's, I guess, how this theater gets its digital feed of the show. And so there I was, just waiting. And so the movie didn't start for another, I think, 15 minutes.
Was
I think
it
I was 15 minutes behind.
Did somebody go talk to the people or something? Or
no, after about 10 minutes, some young employee comes in and, I'm sorry, we're trying to fix things as quickly as we can. And so we're like, okay.
So whatever. You took that moment to stand up and say, I'm with the Audio Oomox podcast. Yeah, you didn't want to either.
I did not.
Yeah, because unlike me, you didn't get shut down by somebody in a Picard costume.
Now, I did ask. So I asked one elderly lady on the way out for a comment. What did you think of the movie? And her only comment that she was willing to give me, and not on a recording, was, it was long but good. My experience was it was more of a kind of a lone experience, solo experience. I did have the poster seated comfortably next to me, so it wouldn't get folded or creased or anything like that.
Like Ira was sitting right next to you.
Yeah.
Oh, dude. That's so funny.
That was it.
That's so funny. And I could just see your face. I mean, I could just see you like sitting there going, "Have I been punked? What is going on? There's the show."
Well, when it wasn't airing, I was thinking it did not enough. It's like those college courses. If you don't get 8 people to enroll, they cancel the course. I was like, so are they going to just air, the...
Well, and I saw online also that there were, I think in New Jersey and a couple other places, there was some issue like you had. And like one of them, I think I read 2 different things. One was like nothing started for like half an hour almost, and people were pissed. And there's another one where it was going, but the sound wasn't working. And so, but they got it going. And you know what though? I actually, besides all that and making it, not a fool of myself, but actually, sticking my neck out and getting shut down. But the good news is, and I want to go ahead and just get to this now, if that's okay. Sure. I met 2 great guys who were in the front row, and they knew people, and they're big in the cosplay movement in the Kansas City area. And I saw the pictures of their cosplay, which is just, dude, we got no chance if we get into the cosplay. we just bow to these guys. But it's Sean and Jeff, 2 wonderful guys, and I tagged them afterwards, and they were just excited, and we were going out at the same time, and I thought, these guys are so full of energy and so excited, and I don't think they were my age or our age, but they weren't kids. So I just was like, hey, guys, do you mind talking to me? And then I shoved this thing that looks like a dang taser in their face, and they're like, okay. So, hey, let's hear what they had to say about what we left behind. Okay. First of all, I got to start with, I just showed them the T-shirt, and they're like laughing their head off. So that's great. Okay. All right. Let's see. If your first name?
Sean.
Sean, where are you from?
I'm originally from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Oh. Yeah, but been in Kansas City for the past 2 years.
Past 2 years?
Yes, sir.
My co-host is from Coriopolis. That's where he was born. That's outside of Pittsburgh too, I think.
So. Yeah, I'm on the other side.
He's a Steelers fan. That's all I know. I'm a Chiefs fan. I know. It's terrible. We just got out of watching What We Left Behind. I'm sorry, you got your name?
Jeff Smith.
Jeff, all right.
Yes.
You're from?
Originally Manhattan, Kansas, from Parkville.
Oh, okay. Thoughts? What do you guys think about the documentary?
I thought it, for the 2 hours, and we talked about that, it didn't seem like it was 2 hours. It went by really quick, but yeah, I wanted more. But from what they could do in the time frame they had, I thought was excellent. They covered a variety of topics, from race to homelessness, when they did all the check marks. That, and it was funny for us because when they were talking about women empowerment, we really looking at because I've seen, I'm a late to DS9, so I've seen it because my partner here, he's the one that got me into Star Treks, and Deep Space Nine is my favorite, is my absolute favorite. So seeing it on Netflix, streaming, and seeing each episode not having to wait week by week, and missing some of the themes like that was really really eye-opening, and it kind of makes you want to go back and watch it again, because just so much that show just spearheaded and started. It's just amazing. It's amazing, yeah.
The proliferation of these strong female characters, which even though we had Crusher and Troy in Next Generation, that was really all you ever got. Right. The female characters were very much a female stereotype in Next Generation. Watching that documentary and seeing the evidence of these strong women in every story arc floored me, because I had never picked up on that before.
Yeah.
I had never picked up on that before.
I watching it and thinking back to 25 plus years ago, and how there we go. We got somebody cruising by. But 25 plus years ago, what are we watching? And I'll tell you what, I was jarred by Kira.
Mm-hmm.
And I've matured, obviously. I've grown older.
Exactly.
And I realized that was not such an anomalous thing. I mean, it was groundbreaking, but the idea of a strong woman's always been there. It's just this show showed it.
Exactly.
And Nana.
In every female character, right? From Moogie to Keiko O'Brien, who went off on her own for 6 months. I mean, Keiko was taking the kids and doing her own thing for 6-9 months at a time. So and it never dawned on me. We just got done finished watching DS9 again, all 7 seasons, and it just floors me that I've never picked up on that.
Well, let me ask you this then: